much for agreeing to be part of our Spotlight on Artists video series.
No worries.
It's very nice to have get the wood people on tape finally. Let's just start there. What is it about carving, sculpting wood that keeps you working at it?
I know for me, it initially started as like a mental health thing. Like I started off with spoons, and it was just something, it's kind of hard to worry about stuff when you're focusing and trying not to cut yourself, right? And so that's sort of what started it for me. And then I joined the guild and got to see what everybody else was doing. And everyone, you know, whether it be realistic animals to, you know, things that are a little bit more flowing and more natural form, you just sort of get inspired by all the different things that you see, right? So joining the guild was really great for that.
Yeah, that expanded your horizons somewhat, it sounds like.
Yeah, just you get ideas. You almost talk as much as you do carve, right? What are you working on? Oh, that's really cool. What do you see in this piece of wood, right? Because like when I'm working on stuff that I find in the forest, like this elephant here, the elephant was maybe the third thing that I saw. When you flip it around, I saw two different birds. I brought it to school. I had students who saw there was a sloth in there somewhere. Someone thought they saw like a cat in there, just depending on what angle it was at. But to me, like the strongest shape was the elephant. So then I started to carve that out of it.
So the wood's sort of speaking to you.
Yeah, if it's the found stuff, like same thing here. Like it's a wedge from someone cutting down a tree. That would have been like a branch coming out. And so to me, it was I saw the swan's back.
Swans, yeah, yeah.
So.
Did you say you're working on the elephant now?
Yeah.
Why don't you sort of walk us through? Like you've already told us how it started, where you looked to see what was in the wood, and then you decided elephant. What's next?
I think most of the shaping on the elephant is actually done. I'm in the process right now of trying to go through and look for the scratches. So when I get really close to the end, I'll often put a coat of finish on it, and that brings out all the natural colors, but it helps me to see where there's scratches that I maybe need to work on. And so as I start, you know, to work on the different parts, it's kind of like, is there enough of the animal that's there for people to look at it and really see, right? So for me, the ear was really important. That was very part of the natural, that is the actual outside shape of what was there. All I did was kind of just sort of sand the ear out the back, right?
And I see those two kind of stripes in the ear. Is that just part of the natural wood?
That is all just the natural color of this, you know. And so because this piece started to rot, as I started carving stuff away, all these bug holes all of a sudden were visible where they weren't before.
So that bugs have made those holes.
Yeah, yeah. And when I was blowing the dust out, like the holes you can see on the end of the tusk were coming through some of the holes in the head. It's all connected.
Is there going to be an eye?
There kind of is an eye already.
That's what I was thinking.
It's bigger than it was, which is good because it was kind of small, but there's a natural hole there. So now I've got to decide whether or not I fill it with something like a black epoxy so that it kind of pops a little bit different. Do I want to try and make it a little bit bigger or not? That'll be one of the last things I sort of decide to do.
Where will more detail go into? The trunk and the feet, or?
I've been toying with the idea of maybe doing toes on this 1 foot only. I'm leaning a little bit towards not now. I think I'm almost on all the major detail that there is going to be. Yeah, sometimes you got to sort of leave it and then come back to it like a day or two later. Or I have it kicking around. So at school in the wood shop, it's out. I'm showing my kids in class all the time where I'm at with it. That gives them a chance to come and they'll say, ooh, I really like how smooth it feels back here or whatever, right? So, yeah.
Well, you must be a pretty popular teacher.
Well, it's all about having fun and trying to be creative. And you try and make stuff that the kids want to make. in the hopes that that keeps them interested.
So you've already told us that one of the, I have a question to ask you about what inspires your design or your choice of materials. I think you've already told us that sometimes choice of materials laying on the forest floor.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that inspires your design? And the wood itself inspires your design because it speaks to you. But
yeah, like with the spoons, often I'll buy a board purely because that particular board has something interesting going on. And so I will plan like where my spoon is going to. I'll try and have the bowl of the spoon have something funky going on with the grain. And so yeah, sometimes it'll be, you know, if I'm going to a store and I see there's one particularly nice piece of wood, I'm like, okay, how can I utilize this? And I'll try and get as many spoons out of it as I can. But if it's the forest, like that was a piece of firewood from Scout Camp, right? And it was at night, I had a headlamp on, and the way that the light reflects off of some of the things in the wood, it was kind of sparkling, quite literally. And so it caught my eye, and I'm like, oh, there's some really cool stuff going on there, and I started looking at it, and the bird was sort of what I saw. So that's what I did.
well, we're very glad that didn't end up in the fire pit. Is there something that you feel makes your work unique as compared to other people in your field?
Like I do a lot of stylized stuff. There aren't as many people in the guild who tend to do the stylized stuff. I like being outside, like I'm a scout leader. I love like all the animals and things, so often you'll find, you know, animals and insects and whatever. So that sort of stuff inspires me. But I like the fact that I'm not trying to recreate something that's specific. Like if I do a bird, I will try and make sure if I can that, you know, the length of the bill seems right and the placement of the eye seems right. But I don't have the rules if I'm trying to recreate a realistic bird. Where if we do those carving competitions,
I'm looking at the one behind you, and that would be an example of what you're talking about. I think it's very stylized. It has just been capturing my imagination since we sat down.
So yeah, that's a piece of walnut from Paletta Estates, just down the road. And so yeah, I found this lying on the ground, starting to rot. This would have been much wider over here, and. But it was just, I don't know, I naturally sort of saw the basic shape of it being there. And again, for me, carving is just as much about feeling it. So when I'm sanding and shaping, you know, I'll close my eyes and I'll feel it. And, you know, how does that make me feel as well, right? And so for me, like, yes, I would like it to look nice, but I also like it to feel nice. And which kind of goes against, like, if you go and do a show, or people like, don't touch the art,
don't touch.
Right? And I kind of want people to touch it, because for me, that's just as much as it is to view it, right?
I had a question for you here about what you hope people will experience if they acquire a piece of your work, and I think you've started to tell us that. It's tactile, it's...
For sure. I think every piece is its own thing. Some are definitely much more grabbable than others, like the spoons. I very much, for me, it's just as much how does it feel in my hand, let alone whether you're going to use it or not, because they are all usable spoons. But yeah, like if it's going to be something that you're going to use every day, like I want it to feel nice in your hands. And I don't like the little ones that are like teeny pencils that you go to the store, they just don't feel right. And so a lot of people say, yeah, I really like the way that they feel. And then obviously I try and make them interesting from how they look. So now and then I'll find an interesting piece of wood that you don't get to see very often, like a locust. And that would have been like a tree down the street.
Okay, yeah. So you probably encourage people, if they're going to buy a piece of your work, to, well, pick it up and feel it.
Yeah, for sure. And with the spoons in particular, because they really are, you've got to hold them to use them. And it's kind of like in Harry Potter where the wand chooses the wizard. It's like, pick them up and see how they feel in your hands. And it's interesting to watch people do that. And then you can tell when they pick up the one that feels nice for them.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone. So it's kind of neat to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about the sale coming up, and you know we're doing these videos because we want to have a good suite of videos on the YouTube channel for people to go to and enjoy. But we also want to talk about the sale that's coming up in May. You have things that are going to be in the sale?
Probably everything that is on the table, with the exception of the dragonfly, because that belongs to my wife, will be there, plus more. Like I'll be carving more spoons. They usually do well in the springtime. The elephant might be done by then, so there's a very good chance the elephant might be in the sale. And there's a few other bits and bobs that I do at home. Like I do wood turnings as well, which to me is just another form of carving. It's just the wood actually spins and you're holding the tool. So I like to do things like little salt pinch pots, so something smaller than this that's more useful, like in the kitchen sort of thing. But again, it's usually about, is the piece of wood interesting? You know, what shape is going to look nice with that particular, you know, grain that's going on.
Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed listening to you talk about your wood creations, and I think when I turn the camera off, I'm going to come over there and touch everything.
Go for it.
Thank you very much, Chris.
No worries.
Bye-bye.